You're so cute. You're a good girl. In today's uncut training session, we're going to be working with Aquina. She is a 16-year-old, I think she's a Hanoverian. I always get Hanoverian and Holsteiner mixed up. She's a 16-year-old warm blood, and she is one of our school horses, and she came to me because she was supposedly permanently lame and diagnosed with degenerative disease of the suspensory ligaments, and I'd had a lot of success fixing a few other horses with that diagnosis. So she came to me, and then I just fell in love with her, and so now she's one of our school horses. So I'm going to start her by lunging her to warm her up. Doing a lot of lunging with her is something that kind of gets skipped over as a school horse. But it's very important for her to help her with her stiffness and to keep her strong. So the best way to help her with her hind end issues is to have her build up a lot of strength. So when I lunge her, what I'm looking for is for her to try to find the academic volt, which is a circle where the radius is equal to the length of the body of the horse, and she's balanced on it and able to track her hind legs up with her front legs. So one of the things about a horse that's built like hers, she's very long. And so when you have a horse that's really long, they might trick you and overreach their front steps quite a bit, but they're still trailing in the hind. So as I'm starting to lunge her, what I'm looking for is for her to be balanced on the circle, and her girth should line itself up with the center. And so for her to be balanced on the circle, she should be bent to the left and lifting a little bit off of this left shoulder. So she keeps on trying to counterbend to the right. So there's a few different things I can do to try to help her with that. So one of them is what I have been doing, where I can kind of just gently, not exceeding her resistance point, but just gently ask her to bend towards me, and then use my whip to kind of help support. Now that's not really working as well as I would like. So another option is to change the center to the middle of the lunge line, get us to go on the same circle, so that fixed the bend. And then I let her go back out on the other circle. So what I'd like is for her to not fall on this inside shoulder, and again have that soft left bend. Once I feel like I'm closer to that, then I'm going to focus on increasing the walk. So I want maximum walk without her trotting. And with a horse like this, that's this long, I really want to look at those triangle shapes that the legs make when they're stepping. So right now, as I'm warming her up, you'll see the triangle shape in the front is bigger than the triangle shape in the hind. So that means that she's pulling herself along with her front end more than she's pushing herself with the hind end. So I'm going to come in to help myself get a little bit better position, because when I'm close to her, I have more ability to position her. The further I'm out on the lunge line, the harder it's going to be. And so you notice that as I start to get her balanced, she tries to canter and such, and that's because I'm working out the stiffnesses, and she would rather try to trot or canter instead of try to work out those resistances and that tension. So now I got a good position, so I'm going to increase the walk. And so I should be able to get all the ranges in the gait on the lunge line. So maximum walk, pee off. So her cadence is a little off and her pee off, so I'm going to use my whip on the shoulders to try and help her with the timing. That's a little bit better. So you can see, there we go. So you could see the same resistance she was giving where she tried to canter. The same thing came up when I was trying to ask her to shorten, where she tried to bring that left diagonal into a little bit of a canter gait. So that was good. She got her cadence, so that's why I'm letting her stop for a second. And you see this is a pretty trained horse, so when she stops pretty square. She's a little off on her right hind, which is her funky leg anyways, but she stops really nice and underneath herself. The thing about a horse that's built like this, though, is you can see that her shoulders are ahead of her hoof. So it's very tricky when you have a horse that is this long to try and help them to be light. And in fact, before Boucher invented his flexions, it was thought that you couldn't get a horse that's built like this to be light. So now I've warmed her up in the walk, so I'm going to ask her to trot. Notice she did that little canter hop again. So she's preferring, instead of doing the trot, which is pushing evenly with both legs, to kind of push more on the left canter lead and the left diagonal. So what I'm noticing as I'm getting her warmed up is she's got a little bit of stiffness in that left shoulder. That could be why she kind of hopped into it. So I'm going to try to increase the trot, constantly thinking about that bend and that balance on the circle, and see if that starts to loosen up the shoulder. So I know if it gets more tight, then I might need to back away from it. If it starts getting better, well, then I know I'm on the right track. So I'm going to have her walk, because to me she looks a little jammed still. So one of the ways you can unjam them, well, get them to unjam themselves, because you can't do it for them, is to tap on the chest. So notice that she's not coming forward and she hops. So the reason she's hopping is because she's running into her own resistance. So I'm going to ask her to walk again, ask her to stop. So when I tap on the chest, you'll see it's in an invitational way. That was a little bit better. It's not tapping in a way that makes her feel like she needs to back. It's a tap that increases the blood flow on the chest and then gives space in between. And then what she should do as a forward horse is fill that space and fill that gap. Yep. So as I get closer to getting her to track her hind legs to her front legs, you see sometimes she wants to go into the canter, and that little stumble on the hind, that's fine, that's totally normal. It's just because she hasn't been lunged very much lately and she needs to build that strength back up. Now you don't just want to get them on the lunge line and make them go really fast. That's part of it, but you don't want the horse to become crazy. So just like in the walk, how I asked for shortened gaits and lengthened gaits, I'm going to do the same thing in the trot. So now I want her to lengthen. I indicate forward with my hand. She's counterbent. There we go. That's better. Now I'm going to shorten again. I think up, 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 and then that's pretty good. So I'm going to ask her to stop. And when she stops, she should stop on the circle instead of turning in towards me and splaying in the hind, and she should stop square. Like that. So now I'm going to give her a break for a second. And you'll know you did a good job when they'll do a lot of snorting after you did this. Okay, now I'm going to change directions. So I know that her right side is her harder side because she has a hard time with the right hind. So I always try to start my horses on the side that I know will be easier. Because it's just like you want to warm up at the gym with the easy stuff before you jump in to the hard stuff. So if I just let her go the way that she wants to go on this side, she really brings that right hind closer to me, and she really likes to counter bend. So I'm going to come in closer, bend, affects the hind coming under. The hind coming under affects bend. So there's a little bit of rigidity on the right side of the neck that I want to try to get to soften. And I want this right hind, again, to come underneath. So I might focus on the neck for a minute and then focus on the hind for a minute. And I can even exaggerate it for a second and really bring that right hind under, bringing her into a shoulder in on the circle, without the shoulders getting closer to me though. So I'm going to a little bit more extreme position than the one she wants to do. So I did that for a little bit. Now I'm going to let her go. So I vibrate on the line to try to break up the tension, because just like this horse likes to be very heavy in the hand under saddle, she really likes to lay on the lunge line. So I don't want to just hold the lunge line and try to hold her into a position, because that's why she had lameness issues. I need to suggest to her the position, and then she's the one who takes the position. And so when I'm the one who's holding her in the position, you could say that there's tension. When she's the one who's holding herself in the position, there's no tension, either in her muscles or on the line. And so just like I did on the other side, I really want to lengthen. So maximum walk and maximum trot are some of the best things we could do to keep her strong, which is what helps keep her sound. When you lengthen, you're working on more lateral push and strengthening the hamstrings. And I still focus on the balance on the circle. And then I ask for shortening. So either a counted walk or a pee off, depending on how trained the horse is. So just like the other side, there's a little bit of a lack of cadence. There we go. That's better. So then I reward her and let her walk out. So a lot of times there's a lack of cadence in the pee off because people overuse the hand and then the horse feels blocked in the shoulders. So they'll be pee offing in the hind and not really in the front. And so you want to be very careful when you ask for the pee off that you don't jam the horse up in the front end, because then you're going to lose the cadence and the coordination in your pee off. Now I'm going to ask her to trot. So I'm going to flip my hand to help me with the bend, and I'm going to circle towards her hind, but I don't want her to fall on the shoulder when she does it. Because right now her hind is very close to me. The girth isn't lined up with the center. There it's better. So then I let her lengthen out. That's much better. So I want to find a really big trot. When she's extra stiff, sometimes she'll take some funny steps and get a little bit excited for a second. So I don't really want that to happen, but I also don't want to avoid it. So if I think that might happen, that might be a good time to go into shortening for a couple steps, like so, and then lengthen back out. And I want really big trot. This is what's going to help keep her strong. I might circle towards the hind, but again, watching that shoulder when I do it to really try and get that strength. And you'll see me vibrating on the line, again, trying to break up that tension. There we go. That's much better. And now I'm going to have her shorten again. And we're going to stop. So one of the things that can be challenging when you're lunging is the horse can look balanced on the circle, and then if you look at it from the outside perspective, like over there, the horse can look like they're really leaning. And I bet she looked like she was really leaning through a lot of those pieces, but that's okay. The reason we do these uncut training sessions is to not just show a polished, finished product. It's about showing the process. And one of the things about training is that you're constantly having to do the same things over and over again. So it's like, okay, just because I could get simple protection and an academic vault with her 6 months ago doesn't mean she can necessarily do it today. So you're always working with the horse that you have that day. And just like yourself, if you want to have good cardio, you have to constantly be running. It's not like, okay, I ran a mile once, now I have good cardio. So it's the same thing when we work our horses. And I think that people need to try to have that perspective sometimes when they're going to training their horses. Yep, so I'm going to go ahead and hop up. You ready, lady? Yeah. Does your horse feel spooky, explosive, or even a little off? Maybe you're stuck, frustrated, or wondering if you'll ever reach the level you're dreaming of, or if you need a different horse. From horses that blow up, feel inconsistent, or come up just sore, to riders who feel stagnant or are unsure what's missing, these challenges aren't random. They're signs of misunderstanding, not failure. In our online course, you'll learn how to truly listen to your horse, understand their biomechanics, and recognize what their body and behavior are telling you, so you can train with clarity instead of confusion. This is how you build real harmony, partnership, and confidence. Unlock your horse's potential and your own. Join our online membership or purchase our Harmony in Hand course today. You'll find the links in the description and in our bio. So like I've talked a lot about already, this horse really likes to be heavy, and she also gets ridden by a lot of students. And so one of the things that you have to constantly remind her of is to hold herself up. And so one of the ways I can do that is playing with the fingers. I can also stop and back, which gets her center of gravity to shift further back. So whenever there's weight in the reins, you know that the horse is out of balance. And so you have to constantly, with the horse this long, be reminding her to carry herself well. And she's really cute. She sings when you get it. And so if you don't give the horse somewhere to lean, then they can't lean. Now that's easier said than done. So a good place to start to feel that sense of lightness is in the pee-off. And again, just like on the ground, she's not quite coordinated. So the pee-off, the reason we teach the pee-off so much and so soon is because it proves that the horse is square in motion. So like that pee-off was her first pee-off with me on her for this training session. And she was falling a little bit on her right shoulder and spinning a little bit in the hind. And so that wasn't a perfectly square pee-off. So I didn't then grab at her and try to force her to go into this perfect pee-off. I used my aids to guide her into a better pee-off. And then when she gave me that better pee-off, I'm going to change the subject, which was what her reward was, and I'm going to let her lengthen out. So again, letting your horse be in a really big walk can be one of the best things that you can do for them. I kind of change up how I warm my horses up, depending on the horse and where they're at that day. But one good exercise that can always be good to warm them up is lengthening and shortening. And if the horse isn't ready for pee-off, you can do a counted walk, which just is the walk starting to diagonalize a little bit more. So again, she's swinging a little up. Think about the rhythm. 1, 2, 1, 2. There we go. And then I let her go. And so I'm going to let her go on the reins. And one of the things that tells you that this horse isn't always very light is that when I give, see, there doesn't become a drape in the rein because she's looking for that spot to lean. And so one of the things to get going really well with her which I'm not going to fix in this training session today, but something I'm always trying to work on with her is trying to get that maximum walk with a drape in the rein. And see, the reason she trots is because instead of pushing with the hind, she would rather just fall into the trot. So if I need to kind of steer, which I want to stay down here so my lovely camera girl doesn't have to walk too much. So I'm going to get touch to help me with the steering, and then I go back to letting her go. So that's one of the things that I sometimes like to do when I'm warming my horses up. Other really simple starting out exercises are circles and shoulder ins on the demi-diagonal or shoulder ins on the rail. So I'm going to have her change directions. And again, always vibrating and thinking about asking her for that lightness, and it's no big deal that she wants to kind of go into this pee-offy thing when I ask her to be light. And then I'm going to change the bend, change directions. My shoulders change with her shoulders. And so right now when I go this direction, just like I felt that stiffness on the lunge line, I feel the stiffness of the right hind under saddle. So I started out with a single hand. I should be able to do everything with the single hand and everything with my reins in both hands. But this laying back kind of funky head thing that she's doing is because of the stiffness in the right hind. So one of the things I can do to help her with her stiffness is I'm going to take her into a circle to the right, which is going to help with the bend, help her bring that right hind under. When the right hind comes under, the bend should smooth out. And even here, asking her to be light. When she becomes light, I open my fingers and I give, even if she falls right away, because I don't want to be that crutch to hold her up. Now that feels better, so I'm going to let her lengthen out. So I really want that big walk, and sometimes it can be easier when you go into the big walk to put the reins in the single hand, because I can shorten and lengthen my reins really quickly and easily. So to me, I can feel the stiffness in her back and in her hind legs when I'm asking her to walk out. So what I need to do to try and break down that stiffness is, yes, ask for the big walk, but also ask for other movements, such as shortening and shoulder ins. And again, we got a right bend problem. So sometimes you'll see that she really bends to the right, but the right hind isn't coming under. So that's an issue with the right direct rein. So what I could do is stop, do a direct rein at the stop, really thinking about getting a good direct rein, that right hind coming under. I backed because she's falling on the shoulder. There we go. Now I'm going to do indirect because I want to stay to the right so I can go back and forth between the two. This is called the waltz. When she falls, I ask her to back. Notice my hand comes up to ask her to back instead of pulling back. So when I come up, all I'm doing is readjusting the rein quickly, and that's one of the things that you have to do to teach yourself not to pull. Now, a lot of people would say, oh, you don't look like a very good rider when you do that. And yeah, as you and the horse get more trained, it's better to keep your hands low, and people think it's prettier. But a lot of times when people beat it into somebody to keep their hands low, they'll end up pulling. And so especially with a horse like this that kind of falls and can sometimes rush, you have to train your hands to do something differently to get the position quickly and easily. And the answer is up. But see, if I come up too loosely, it doesn't work. If I come up too tight, it's going to compress the neck. But if I come up just right, you see how quickly and easily she goes into the backup, and then I send her forward. So I'm going to ask for a little bit of shoulder in on this side. So I really want to feel that right hind coming under and being in alignment with the left front. And again, constantly asking for lightness, releasing the connection on the rein. But you see, I don't abandon when I release. It's just a small release. And now I'm going to let her walk out because I put her together and she used her shortening muscles and that shoulder in. And now I'm going to let her lengthen. And now I know this is a hard side and I feel like we've been going this direction for a while. So I'm going to do something to change directions. So I want to always try to think about my horse being even. So I did the waltz on the other side. So that might be what I want to do to get her to change directions on this side. So if I do more of a turn on the haunches, that will help me change directions. Now I want to do turn on the forehand, turn on the haunches, backing because she's falling, turn on the forehand. Now she's set up for a really nice shoulder in, so I'm just going to take it. Good. And then let her go. And if she trots, it's no big deal. I don't even have to do that much. I just stretch up really nice and gently without pulling or without leaning forward or pushing on my stirrups. Those are big things that happen oftentimes when people rush. And this horse is very sensitive to your legs. If you bring your legs back correctly, she won't rush. If you bring your legs back incorrectly or tip your shoulders forward, she will rush and she will go fast. Even if it's not what you think you asked for. So now I'm going to do some shoulder in on this side. And then I'm going to let her go. And now that she's a little more warmed up, I'm going to take her into some more advanced figures. So I'm going to do a reverse demi-volte haunches out. So I do a half pass off of my imaginary rail I created. So I want to maintain that left bend, push from the right hind out through the left front. So I call that the cone part. And then this top part I call the ice cream part. So because it's demi-volte haunches out, I'm doing more of a turn on the forehand. This really works her right hind. So I want to be encouraging about her getting into the position, but I'm never forcing her into the position. And see, now she already feels so much better this direction because I suppled that right hind. So she feels more balanced. She doesn't feel like she's bringing her hind in towards the middle of the arena quite as much. And again, I did that on that side. So now I want to even it out. And I'm going to do a reverse demi-volte haunches out this side. So I start with the half pass off of the rail. Try to keep that push to the left hind, keeping the right bend. So I'm going to tuck my pinky to just help me a little bit, give me just a little more for when I close my fingers on the right rein to help change the bend. Looking up and around over my thrusting diagonal. A lot of times when people do the direct rein, they think they're turning that way. That's a biped idea. You got to think like you're pushing this way, this way, this way until the horse changes like so, because you have to think about that hind end, that you have to think like a quadruped when you're riding. And so now I got her nice and warmed up, and I don't always go walk, trot, canter, and in fact usually I go walk, canter, trot in my training sessions. But if my horse is a little bit more trained, sometimes I go walk, trot, canter. The reason I don't do that on my as trained horses is because it's really easy for the horse to use the weight and the canter. And so when you start trotting, you're kind of getting them into that thought that they can use their weight to get themselves into the canter, and you're never going to get flying changes that way. The reason I am okay with doing it on a horse that's a little bit more trained is because she already has very good control of her weight and the canter, and she's not very even in her diagonal pairs because of her lameness issues. And so one of the things that the trot does is it evens out the horse. So I'm going to stop and back because it just feels like she's not really pushing with the hind. That's why it's a little bit bouncier. There we go. That's a better trot. And now I'm going to take her into some bending in the trot. Try and see if I can get her into a soft bend. So I lengthen on my left rein as I shorten on my right rein. Notice just that little bit of pinning, not very much, but just this little bit of pinning her ears. When I hit that resistance point on the right side, so everything changes through my body, and I ask for left bend. And again, I listen to the head coming up and the ears going back slightly as information of where she's tight. And so now I'm going to ask her to shorten. I'm going to flip my hands so that I can ask for a little more up, up, up. Now I'm going to let her lengthen. And this girl's got big movement. So as I lengthen, I'm going to post. So I really want to think about not pushing on my stirrups. See how I'm asking her to lengthen, but I can feel her losing her hind end. So I don't want to have her fall out of position. So when I have a green horse, I'm not going to generally trot them this long because they're not going to be able to hold themselves into a position as long as she can. So you see, sometimes she'll fall out of the position, but she very quickly readjusts herself. So I'm going to let her walk, and I'm going to have her stop and give us both a little break because that's a lot of work while I'm talking. So like I said, this horse has really big movement, and you have to have a really good seat to ride her well. It's very easy to want to just tighten and lean on a horse like this, but that's not going to help her find her balance, and it's not going to help her with her lameness issues. So you want to try to keep the trot at a pace that you can sit it, and if you can't, it's okay to post. When you post, you want to again think about being able to post out of the low leg. You notice that I'm not pushing on my stirrups at all. My feet aren't coming forward, and that I'm not doing a really big post. So I'm just coming out of the low leg, and then I just tip my shoulders a little forward. So I'm going to stop talking for a second because I can't breathe while I'm doing this, and I'm going to let her lengthen out. Get my right diagonal. Go. And now I'm going to have her shorten. So as soon as I feel like I can, I'm going to switch to sitting. Bring the hind end under. Ask for lightness. Ask for up, up, up. There we go. And walk. And now I'm going to give her a little break to walk out on a long rein. And we can see how willing she is to not lean on the hand compared to when she started. So I'll give her little reminders again. I'm going to let her go a little more. I want a little more walk though, because she's kind of trailing in her hind. I can feel it. And then that's why she breaks into the trot, because it's easier to do that than to do the big walk. So I stop and back her. So I could just ask her back down to the walk gently, and that might be my answer, but I could also sometimes I go to the stopping and backing, because when she's trotting, instead of lengthening herself out, what she's doing is she's shifting her center of gravity more and more forward. And one of the things she does, even when you're standing still, is she kind of does the creepy crawly forward because she likes to lean so much. So now we're going to go into a little bit of canter work. And this girl has a very big canter, and most importantly, she can't hold her canter super long. So it's more important that I get good upwards, I get a good position in the canter, instead of me trying to feel like I'm cantering her for long phases. So this is the reason that you don't always want to go walk trot, because see how she's trying to use the trot to get into the canter, and so halt by the combined effect, because she got too emotional, so it could be because of her stiffnesses, so it's no big deal. I just halt by the combined effect. Notice how quickly she came back to me and she softened, and see how I keep my legs on and I sit back when she gets like that. So her left lead sometimes can be a little bit harder because she has to push with that right hind. So I probably should have considered that when I asked. Very good. And so, because that first canter transition was terrible and that one was very nice, I'm going to give her a little break for a second. And again, you can see how she wants to creep forward on her shoulders. And I want her to just stand nicely on a long rein. So even when I give her a break, she has to stay in the arena. And so I gave her an opportunity. And sometimes when she goes to walk off like that, I just think of it as, okay, no big deal. We'll just go back to work. So I'm going to ask for another nice left lead. So I want to have left bend. I want to feel her lift off of the left shoulder, and there's lots of ways I can ask. I'm just going to simply slide that right leg back and walk. So you notice that we always go walk to canter, canter to walk, and the reason for that is because it helps with your flying changes. If you use trot and trot faster and faster to get your horse to canter, it's going to be very hard to get flying changes on your horse. So now that we're changing directions, again, she's getting a little excited, she's getting a little emotional, so I just halt by the combined effect till she softens. Now I'm going to let her walk out, and I'm going to focus on getting, now she's anticipating, getting that right hind under and comfortable before I have her canter. So if she anticipates to, same thing, halt by the combined effect. Good, she softened, now we can walk off. So notice that when she canters and I don't want it, that I come up on a single hand, that I don't pull back, I don't lean forward, I don't push on my stirrups, and there she's set up nicely. And now we can canter. She did a change on me. She's very good at her flying changes. And we usually do them at the end. There we go. And walk. So especially with a horse like this that has a big canter, a lot of times people will lean and try to think of the canter happening out there. I try to think of it happening very much underneath me, and what I would like to have happen is have her almost be able to canter in place. Because if I lean and I have her go fast, then it's not going to be a good canter and it's going to be out of control. So a lot of us, when we were little, especially people who grew up riding, think that the canter is this big thing that you lean and you have it happen in front of you. When I canter, like that. No, tempi changes. So what I try to think is of it being, there we go, good, and walk. So see there, I'm going to reward her because it got a little chaotic and she was like, okay, I'm going to do tempi changes, I'm going to do flying changes, and there she did just a nice, easy few steps of right lead canter, and so that's why I'm then going to let her go. Now, like I said, I usually end with some flying changes and some tempi changes, but because she's using that as a resistance today, it's probably not going to be ideal to end like that. So I'm going to try to ask for one more really good right lead canter, trying to get her to be light because as things are getting chaotic, it's getting a little bit heavier. And walk. Good. Yes, much better. And so because that was hard for her, we're going to quit with that today.